Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Central Europe. I hope everybody is having a good start to their weekend, staying healthy, strong, and productive. Welcome our members. Welcome Nico. Nice to have you on board. Send me an email. I'll hook you up with your perks. Good to see everyone. This class, as usual, is presented to you by aehelp.com. For academic IELTS success, please visit us there. And for the general IELTS, check us out at gieltshelp.com. That's generalieltshelp.com. On both of our websites, we have lots and lots of information to help you improve your English and your communication skills so that you can get those high band scores. Welcome, Janil. Good to see many people in the class already. If anybody has questions, just send me an email to adrian@aehelp.com. This is Nico. This is where you should send your email to adrian@aehelp.com. Just say, I'm a new member. Please hook me up with my perks, and then I'll check your ID and then hook you up with those exclusive videos. All right. I will quickly show you our websites here. This is our, just let me get to it. This is our academic website here with the blue background, and you can click that big red button to join the premium package. It is a one-time payment for lifetime access, so you can use all of the materials and updates that we provide until you pass your IELTS exam. Same thing for the general IELTS. It is, again, with a green background like this. And you can click that big red button there to join our premium package. We are an official IELTS test registration center, and we have IELTS certified British Council agents as well. So we know what we're doing. We know what we're talking about. In fact, I just wrote my official IELTS exam yesterday, the computer-based academic exam. So that was quite exciting. It was interesting. I always learn something new from that. I can already see Janil asking, how was your exam? I think it went well. Janil, as well as it could go. I will have my marks next week, Friday, if all is true. It takes about 5 days for the computer-based IELTS exam results, so I should have them at the end of next week. So we shall see. There were a couple of questions in the listening where I kind of spaced out, but hopefully I got those, so we'll see. Definitely in the writing section, students, one tip right away that I found very, very useful is to read what I wrote. So after I finished writing task 1, I checked my writing, my paragraphs, and I made a few corrections. And I did the same for task 2. And definitely I caught a few of my own mistakes after reviewing task 1 and task 2. So that is a really smart step. And we do talk about that in our course on our websites. But I don't emphasize that, I think, enough in these live classes. So I'm just reminding you of that again, that in the writing section, it's a really, really good idea to review your essays. Leave a couple minutes. So maybe write a few words less, but definitely review. So it took me about 3-4 minutes to review carefully both task 1 and task 2. So that's a really good idea because you will catch some mistakes, and that can help save you a half a band at least. Okay, so don't just write and then write till the very last minute. It's not a good idea. Okay, Janil, yeah, the essay, task 1, task 2. Okay. All right. If you're curious, I mean, we are going to do some videos on this in HD for the channel, but task 1 was 2 bar graphs, and I did the academic computer-based exam. So task 1, it was 2 bar graphs, and the bar graphs were number of students enrolled in 4 different subjects in a school, and the subjects were media sciences, chemistry, biology, and maths. Those were the 4 subjects. And then there were 2 bar graphs. One bar graph was 1995. The other one was 2010. And I had to do a comparison and explanation of those 2 bar graphs. And then question 2 was about the negative or positive developments of tourism to remote destinations. That was the part 2, and that was the computer-based exam. Chabi, good question. Chabi says, did they recognize you in the test center? Yes, they did. Yeah, both some of the people who work at the test center recognized me, as well as some of the other candidates that were there. So that was kind of interesting, being recognized. And they were like, oh, so you're spying on us. I was like, kind of, but we work with British Council as well. So not quite spying, or internal spying, I guess. But yes, Chabi. Okay, everyone, so let's get back to point here. So I will talk more about my exam experience, and we will have some videos. The speaking went really well too, Carolina. Again, I know you're going to have lots of questions, and I will gladly share those with you, but just hold on to them, okay? Next week, we will have a Q&A session for members as well, so you can hold your questions for then. Just be patient, okay? We'll focus in on today's lesson, finishing this task 2, and I will reference some of the experiences on the exam. One quick tip that I'll share with the members right now is when you're doing the computer-based exam, for the reading and listening, especially for the listening section, try not to use the mouse to move your cursor to the different questions, but use the tab key and keep your fingers on the home row. It's a very important tip. You'll see why, okay? But make sure to practice that at home, all right? That's something that I realized very quickly in the listening section. You don't want to use the mouse. You want to use the tab key to move between the questions. It helps you to stay focused much more on the questions. Okay. Yeah, Carolina, there's 4 videos coming up about that. Yeah, registration, getting ready, the actual exam, and after the exam, which of course we're going to film later. So yeah, lots of videos coming up on that, Carolina. So yeah, look forward to those. Okay, cool. So let's get into today's lesson here. We still have task 2 today, of course, and speaking part 2 tomorrow. And then, as usual, no class on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So those days, just study, practice, look at the other HD videos on our channel. And then, of course, we have a full week coming up next week as well. And see, on Saturday, on this day next week, members, you will have a Q&A session. So you can ask me lots more about the exams at that time, okay? All right. This was the question that we were looking at on Thursday. And we'll get right into it. So the question was, you should spend about 40 minutes on this task. Should wealthy nations be required to share their wealth among poorer nations by providing such things as food and education, or is it the responsibility of the government of poor nations to look after their citizens? All right, so we did some really good planning on Thursday, and planning is definitely important. It's something that I did in my official exam as well. I used the paper that you get for logging in to take notes on, and that's actually where I did my planning. So I didn't do the planning on the computer. You can, but I didn't. I did the planning with my hand on paper. They give you a piece of paper for each section in the computer-based exam, and you can have a pen. You should have a pen, and then you can use that. And I used my pen and paper to plan my essay, and then I typed it on the computer. I found that to be the most efficient. I just like the way my brain works when I'm planning using a paper and pen more than typing. So typing I like to do when I'm writing the essay. Planning I like to do with pen and paper. So I used pen and paper for the planning part, and then I typed the essay. Okay, there's another tip from the exam for you. Okay. All right, but it might be different. Some of you might feel that you plan better when you're typing. Okay, it could be a different feel for a different person. For me personally, because that's always how I took notes in university, I like to plan with my handwriting rather than with typing. Okay, so here is our thesis. Our thesis is, it is both the responsibility of wealthier nations as well as local governments of poorer countries to aid their citizens. The former is needed for faster progress and the latter for strong independence. Okay. All right, so I wrote an introductory paragraph. And here it is, the introductory paragraph. I have the hook. Now, I know that I gave this for homework as well. So if you did this homework, please share it in the class. Okay? Okay. So having the opportunity for a high quality of living is the right of all people. That was my hook. Right? Because really what we're dealing with in this question is that all people should have a good life. Okay, that could be another hook, by the way. So having the opportunity means the possibility, right? With education and food. So having the opportunity for a high quality of living is the right of all people. That's my hook. Okay. Oh, it says any generous support can help to reduce suffering and save lives. There's no such word as poors. Okay, that's not a word. So careful with that. Careful with non-words. All right. Any generous support can help to reduce suffering and save lives. Take out the word poors. That's very awkward. Don't make mistakes in your hook, students. Be very careful with that. Mahmoud says there are variant societies who need assistance, suffering lack of the basic requirements for life and living around the world in Asia, Africa, Europe, and other countries. Mahmoud, that's not a hook. That sounds more like a background, like you're giving a definition. Okay, so don't do that. Instead, just write a simple hook that's only 10 to 12 words. Okay, so keep it really simple. Okay, notice how mine's much shorter. Having the opportunity for a high quality of living is the right of all people. Or a high quality of life is the right of all people. Okay, and then my background. So this is my definition here, Mahmoud, coming next. This means improving the living standards for impoverished citizens, so poor citizens, impoverished citizens in poor countries by providing basic needs such as nutrition and literacy for both survival and development. Okay, so I'm defining what we're talking about here. It means that we have to better the quality of life in poor countries with basic needs. Okay, basic needs includes nutrition, food, so being able to live healthy, and literacy, being able to read. Okay, arguably that is a need in today's society. Okay, and then the importance of the question, right? So why is this important? It is not only humanitarian, but also beneficial for all people to aid impoverished populations. So it's the right human behavior, it's humanitarian, and it helps everybody in the world when we help the poor populations. Okay? So that's why it's important to discuss this topic. That's the importance of this discussion. All right. And then the thesis as such, so I just simply created a connective word here, or connective expression. As such, it is both the responsibility of wealthier nations as well as local governments of poorer countries to aid their citizens. The former is needed for faster progress and the latter for strong independence. So that's those are going to be the body paragraphs. Okay. Janil, I like it. So Janil's hook is helping the needy is a humanitarian practice. I like it, Janil. It's beautiful. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 words. It's clear. It's interesting. I want to read more of what you're writing. It's accurate. It's good language. That's a great hook, Janil. Okay. Hi, Andre. Welcome on board. Rashika says, assistance to poor people is a quality human trait that has been happening since a long time ago. Rashika, you can simplify that. So Rashika, don't overword your ideas if it's not necessary. So Rashika, you can state that in a much simpler way. So you can simply say, assisting the unfortunate or assisting unfortunate people has been a part of human history. Okay, or helping the poor has been happening for centuries. Okay, so something simpler, Rashika. You don't need to, it seems really complex and unnecessarily complex. There you are, Nico. Hope you heard all of the points that I gave you earlier. Okay. All right. Chabi says, ordinary life is the minimum that humans ask for, whatever their background or location. Yeah, Chabi, not bad. It's good. Again, you can make that more concise, right? Mahmoud, good background. Okay, so I'm just going to read the introduction one more time, and then we'll get right into the body paragraphs. Okay, let's work through this essay at a good pace today in the class. So this is my full introduction. Again, this is what you want to do in the IELTS. What I actually did, so that you're perfectly clear in my exam yesterday, is when I finished a paragraph, I read my paragraph before writing the next one. And then once I was finished my whole essay, I read my whole essay one more time. Okay. All right. So here we go. So whole paragraph. Having the opportunity for a high quality of living is the right of all people. This means improving the living standards for impoverished citizens in poor countries by providing basic needs such as nutrition and literacy for both survival and development. It is not only humanitarian, but also beneficial for all people to aid impoverished populations. As such, it is both the responsibility of wealthier nations as well as local governments of poor countries to aid their citizens. The former is needed for faster progress and the latter for strong independence. Okay, good. So now we start body paragraph 1. Body paragraph 1 begins with the topic sentence. Okay, so the topic sentence, what is that? Can anybody tell me what I should write about specifically here? So what specifically should be my topic sentence? Okay, so body 1, topic sentence, and my topic sentence should be, what should it be? Okay, what does it need to include? Yeah, so Carolina, you're right. It's the first idea of my thesis. OS says faster progress. What specifically? So OS Carolina, everyone, what you should be thinking about is a deeper definition of faster progress by aid from abroad. Okay, so that's what you should be thinking about. Okay, so write a topic sentence for me. Write this topic sentence. So what does it mean that wealthier nations should also help the poor citizens of countries with lower GDPs for faster progress? So I'm going to write my topic sentence, and you write yours, and then we'll compare. Let's see if we are both on the same page. Okay, so All right. So there's my sentence. Okay. Preeti, the topic sentence is not why should wealthier nations help poor countries, but it's actually a deeper definition of progress. So you're always going for more detail, Preeti. Don't go more general. Okay. So here's my topic sentence. The resources of wealthier countries assist poorer nations to advance their development much faster than if they were left to deal with their challenges on their own, leading to noticeable change in a matter of years rather than decades. So already I'm reaching for that quantitative information. Now, if you stopped here, if you put a full stop where I put my comma, you still have a pretty good topic sentence. However, if you're going for those higher band scores, you always want to take that extra step for those band 8, band 9s and give clarity as much as possible. So what do you mean faster progress? Well, of course, what I mean here is that we can see progress in 5-6 years instead of 50 to 60 years. Okay? So that's my topic sentence. And then, of course, after that comes my explanation. Like, what do I mean? The resources of wealthier countries. Okay? So we're going to get into that in just a moment. I'm hoping to see some topic sentences here, students, as well. Don't overthink it. Okay? You can write it, then think about it, then write it again. It's okay if you write the first idea that comes to mind. I give you some feedback, and then you can write it again. Make some changes. Andre says, wealthy nations assist poor countries as this is ethical of humans. This displacing as provide education to create a strong economy and developing of all aspects of life. Andre, you need more clarity there. So more clarity. Just go into a deeper definition of what is faster progress. Ois says, this means that rich nations should help poor economies and provide the resources and circumstances to achieve development in a matter of years instead of decades. Oh, it's good. Go for that quantitative information, Ois. Achieve development in a matter of years instead of decades. Okay, matter of years instead of decades. All right. Welcome, Abhil. Join in. We are at the topic sentence. Mahmoud says, wealthier countries have the ability to help other societies, and by doing that, poor societies improve faster. And again, Mahmoud, put that definition in there, in a matter of years instead of decades, or in 5-6 years instead of 100 years, right? So be quantitative. Don't forget to be quantitative, okay? That's definitely an important strategy. I did in my exam yesterday is for the question regarding tourism to remote places. I definitely used quantitative language throughout the essay. Okay. All right. Preeti, rich nations have many resources which they can share with poorer countries so that they can progress faster and build a strong economy in years instead of decades, okay? Or decades instead of centuries. Up to you, your decision, okay? Janil, not only can wealthier nations use their resources to assist poor countries for a more rapid social evolution, but also those countries' authorities. Okay, that we don't need that last part, Janil. That's confusing. Rajveer, the support of wealthier nations for the poorer countries' citizens expedite the infrastructure development like in a couple of years rather than decades. Very nice, Rajveer. Absolutely. Nice use of the word expedite. Expedite means to speed up. Okay, so if that's a new word for anyone, write it down. That's beautiful vocabulary. It's a very good use of the word expedite. Okay. So the resources of wealthier countries assist poorer nations to advance their developments much faster than if they were left to deal with their own challenges, on their own, leading to noticeable change in a matter of years rather than decades. Okay, let's explain this. So what do you mean? What do you mean if wealthier countries help poorer countries, then it will be faster? Explain that, right? So explanation, I think the explanation is not too difficult here. Be a little bit visual. Think about, okay, well, how can those resources be used? Don't just think about money, but think a little bit more comprehensively. So think about some other ideas as well. Okay, so I'm going to be quiet while I type this so you can think and type. Speed here, students, speed. So do it fast, okay? So here's mine. Let's see what you come up with. When rich nations share not only their finances, but also their knowledge and workforce with countries lacking in these domains, they can establish infrastructure and education, which in turn increases the rate of improving the local economy and professionals. And I don't want to use workforce again because I've used it before. I'm going to use employment. All right. So let's see what you have. All right. Chabi says governments could give shortcuts to improve education and healthcare system depending on their past experience and mistakes that happened, so they do not have to go through the same learning process. Yeah, Chabi, I think that's good logic. Don't use the contraction, so do not. Okay, have to go through the same learning process. Preeti says if wealthier nations share their technology and knowledge with developing countries, then certainly they can construct both good infrastructure and higher education, which improves the local economy. Very nice, Preeti. I love that explanation. Very well done. Rajveer says, when developed countries such as the US, the UK, and France shares their technical knowledge in domains like construction, research and development, and education with developing countries like India and Japan, it helps in creating new jobs and improves lives of people living in weaker economies. Yeah, I don't know about Japan, Rajveer. Japan is extremely evolved as far as infrastructure. I think you were maybe thinking of a different country with that. Careful with information mistakes, Rajveer. Mahmoud says, when poor nations are helped by building schools, children begin to earn an education and left without help, they would not have literacy. Okay, Mahmoud, stay in the present tense. Don't use will, okay? Focus on writing your ideas using the present general tense, okay? Don't jump to the future. All right, Ois, you're on the example that's coming later. Andre says, if poor nations do not receive outside help, their economy stifles, Andre. S-T-I-F-L-E-S, stifles, means does not move, like some African countries. Okay, we'll get into those examples a bit later, Andre. Okay. Now, at this point, I have to be careful to not go too far from the original question, and I want to keep the original question in mind always, okay? This is another really important tip. This is what I also did yesterday during my exam, is I kept going back in my head to the original question. The original question, remember, asks us not just about education, but also about providing food as well, right? So I don't want to forget about that. Of course, right? So even a simple sentence like this, of course, any food provided from abroad aids the local people to have health and energy while they learn and build, okay? So again, helping the process to go more quickly and more smoothly. And I can finish that idea as long as I know that I'm fast enough to fit it within my 40 minutes, okay? Okay, now comes the example, all right? So I'm always thinking of that original question, and because the original question included food, I'm keeping that thought in there. How does food from the outside help the local people? Well, it keeps them fed while they learn and they build, right? Okay, Ois says, a reconstruction in Syria requires international support because the war losses are great and have overtaken the national capabilities. Yeah, Ois, that's a good one, okay? So that would be a good example. Let's see some more examples, all right? There's definitely some examples of foreign aid to certain parts of the world that are either war-torn or are decimated by natural disasters or just have slow-moving economies for other reasons. So just pick up any one of those examples and put it in there. The best is if you can use an example which you can write about in both of your paragraphs. So Janil says, in light of this, in 2016, very nice use of in light of this, Janil. In light of this, in 2016, the Indian government exported around 1 million tons of wheat to help South African regions which had been affected by drought to stimulate their population and their economy. Okay? All right, so Janelle, watch the ordering of ideas. I'm going to use your example here. So in light of this, I'm starting with so always think, what is the simplest way to express myself clearly and effectively? So who did what and why? In this case, it was the Indian government helping the African regions. Why? To give humanitarian aid and stimulate their economy, right? So same exact example, Janelle, just with a little bit of different wording, right? So in light of this, the Indian government, so the way Janelle's using in light of this is referring back to the explanation, so making a really nice connection here, okay? So in light of this, I like to put the time expressions usually in the beginning. So in 2016, the Indian government exported around 1 million tons of wheat to South African regions, which had been stricken with drought. I know that's tricky. You might not know this, Janiel, but an area is stricken with drought. Okay, the verb is stricken. Stricken with drought in order to aid the local governments and people and stimulate their economies. You often might hear that in the news, like stimulus package. The government releases a stimulus package to stimulate. Okay, means to help and assist. In this way, these communities recovered much faster. From the disaster. Okay, so there is my body paragraph 1. Okay, and that's why I'm showing you, Janiel. Absolutely, that's why it's good to share. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to read my body paragraph 1. Make sure it makes sense. Again, this is what I did in my exam. So I wrote the paragraph, I read the paragraph, okay? I didn't stop while I was writing the paragraph, and I didn't make any corrections. I just wrote the whole paragraph. Then I read the paragraph, made some corrections, and at the very end, I read the whole essay and made some more corrections. If some of you are thinking, well, I don't have enough time to do that, it's not true, because it's a balance of word count versus what you are doing. So if you don't have enough time to read your paragraph and make corrections, try to write less and still make corrections. You'll get a better score. Okay? All right, so the resources of wealthier countries assist poorer nations to advance their development much faster than if they were left to deal with their challenges on their own, leading to noticeable change in a matter of years rather than decades. When rich nations share not only their finances but also their knowledge and workforce with countries lacking in these domains, they can establish infrastructure and education, which in turn increases the rate of improving the local economy and employment. Of course, any food provided from abroad aids the local people to have health and energy while they learn and build. In light of this, in 2016, the Indian government exported around 1 million tons of wheat to South African regions, which had been, right, because it's passive, this is the type of correction that we're looking for, which had been stricken with drought in order to aid the local governments and people and stimulate their economies. In this way, these communities recovered much faster from the disaster. Okay, good. Now we're into body paragraph 2. And body paragraph 2 is with our second thesis point, which is leading to strong independence, okay? So foreign aid and local governments also helping their people so that they can be independent, okay? So here we go. I'm going to write a little bit more fluently here, but I want you to keep writing. I will reference the chat to see who's writing and what you're writing, okay? Rajveer, I see now why you chose Japan, because of the tsunami, right? And foreign aid. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to start writing, and then you do the same, and then we'll compare, okay? Okay. All right. Let's see what you have. It says local authorities must work hard to treat internal problems properly to achieve long-term stability and transition to strong countries. Very nice, OS. Very good. I'm not sure, OS, if you worked on your essay before class, but that's some great writing. Okay. Yeah, influential uphill. Okay, so in the long term, it is also the task of local governments to create the functional systems necessary to feed and educate their poor citizens so that they can become self-reliant and influential in the global community. The ultimate, okay, so, and then the explanation. Okay, so I could keep writing here more explanations about, for example, the dangers of relying on external help when that external help is not available, such as these days. Okay, simply my explanation here is since most countries have unique cultures and identities which are best understood by local authorities, it is the elected governments that are tasked with the responsibility to establish cities, industries, and create a long and rich cultural history which the country can be proud of, right? So that cannot be provided from outside help. That has to be created from within the country. And again, I could explain more about that, but I'm going to stop here. I'm going to try to stick to my 320 words limit. Okay? All right. Rashika says local authorities have the responsibility to produce opportunities as a priority. Yeah, exactly, Rashika, so that they can be self-sustaining. Okay. All right. Okay. And then let's have an example. So there are lots of examples of this as well in the world of countries working very hard. So to create a prosperous economy. All right, so I'm going to use a different example here. Again, you have to be visual. Think about some different places in the world that have really evolved quickly, and I'm sure all of us can think of at least a couple. I thought about the former Soviet states. Some of them, I'm not sure how many of you are keeping up with the changes in some of these countries, such as Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan, but these countries are evolving extremely fast. And it's not because they're getting so much foreign assistance. It's because they have good, strong governments that are in the interest of the people. They're making good decisions, and you can see it in their economies. So this type of internal development can be observed in many of the former Soviet states, which have now become modern economic powerhouses, such as the country of Kazakhstan, that has evolved immensely to become a global business hub over the past 5 decades. And instead of needing help from foreign countries, it is now one of those countries that gives help to other countries, okay, as opposed to the past. All right. So now the conclusion, okay, so conclusion. In conclusion, for the I'm going to keep it a little bit simpler. Okay, so there's my conclusion. So my conclusion is my argument restated, and then my key points strengthened, and my take-home message. All right, so now I'm going to read my whole essay, and this time what I'm doing when I'm reading my essay is making sure I don't have too much repetition, making sure that I answer the question accurately and completely. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to read the task 2 question one more time before I review. So should wealthy nations be required to share their wealth among poorer nations by providing such things as food and education, or is this the responsibility of the government of poorer nations to look after their citizens? Having the opportunity for a high quality of living is the right of all people. This means improving the living standards for impoverished citizens in poor countries by providing basic needs such as nutrition and literacy for both survival and development. Okay, I'm going to add commas here because I think this is an additive quote. Okay, so by providing basic needs, half stop, such as nutrition and literacy, half stop for both survival and development. It is not only humanitarian, but also beneficial for all people to aid impoverished populations. Okay, and notice how my take-home message answers that importance. As such, it is both the responsibility of wealthier nations as well as local governments of poor countries to aid their citizens. The former is needed for faster progress and the latter for strong independence. The resources of wealthier countries assist poor nations to advance their development much faster than if they were left to deal with challenges on their own, leading to noticeable change in a matter of years rather than decades. When rich nations, and here, honestly, I don't like the word years because I think in reality it's more a matter of decades when help is given rather than centuries. So taking hundreds of years. Okay. When rich nations share not only their finances, but also their knowledge and workforce with countries lacking in these domains, they can establish infrastructure and education, which in turn increases the rate of improving the local economy and employment. Of course, any food provided from abroad aids the local people to have health and energy while they learn and build. In light of this, in 2016, the Indian government exported around 1 million tons of wheat to South African regions, which had been stricken with drought, in order to aid the local governments and people and stimulate their economies. In this way, these communities recovered much faster from the disaster. In the long term, it is also the task of local governments to create the functional systems necessary to feed and educate their poor citizens so that they can become self-reliant and influential in the global community. Self-reliant means independent, okay? Since most countries have unique cultures and identities which are best understood by local authorities, I'm going to put another comma here. Because again, it's an additive clause. Since most countries have unique cultures and identities, which are best understood by local authorities, it is the elected governments that are tasked with the responsibility to establish cities, industries, and create a long and rich cultural history which the country can be proud of. This type of internal development can be observed in many of the former Soviet states, which have now become modern economic powerhouses, such as the country of Kazakhstan, that has evolved immensely to become a global business hub over the past 5 decades. Okay. In conclusion, for the overall success of poor citizens and nations that have low investment capital, it must be the responsibility of both the local authorities and wealthier nations to achieve optimal results. With the combined efforts of local and foreign aid, people can both suffer less and develop quickly. And develop quickly, I think, suffer less and develop more. Ultimately, the goal is to build a utopic global community as fast as possible. Okay, so that took me about 2-3 minutes to review my own writing and fix some of those mistakes. Now, if I have some more, obviously it would take me another minute or two, but I'm happy with it. I feel that it answers my question, or the question that's being asked of me by the exam. And that's how you do it. You build it, okay? And yes, you can do it. It just takes a bit of practice, all right? So make sure to practice, practice, practice. So keep following these strategies. Keep following this structure. Again, this is not my way. This is not Adrian's way. This is standard English persuasive essay writing, okay? It's really good job today. I don't know if you prepared in advance or not, but whatever you did, it was great. It was nice seeing some good quality writing from you today, so keep it up, okay? Osman, Andri, thank you everybody for being in the class. Rajveer, welcome to our newest member. I believe it was Nico, who may or may not still be here. Coming up in roughly 30 minutes, I will be back with speaking part 2, I believe, for the all chat class. Yeah, it's going to be a speaking part 2. So make sure to join me for that for lots more tips and strategies. Have a nice break, and hopefully I will see you soon. Again, remember to join our IELTS packages, aehelp.com for academic IELTS and gltshelp.com for general. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access. It's not very expensive, so it's worth it. Okay, everyone. See you soon. Bye for now.